Apple's new iPhone Air isn't getting the uptake that it hoped for. That is according to a new story that we published in The Information. My colleagues reported that the company is delaying the release of its next iPhone Air as the first model sales have been below expectations. We also reported that the company could be looking to redesign the model to include a second camera lens after the first model had only one. Joining me now to discuss that is Gil Luria, Managing Director and Head of Technology Research at D.A. Davidson. Gil, welcome to TITV. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this news that we reported yesterday. What did you make of it?
Well, when we first saw the iPhone Air, it looked very cool. It almost looked sexy, right? We all want a thinner, lighter phone. And so there was an appeal there. But once customers put their hands on it, they realized a couple of things. One is it's not actually that thin because the camera bump means that it's at its thickest point, it's as thick as any other iPhone. And then also that the sacrifice is in the battery life. And that's something that is one of the top, if not the top consideration for consumers to upgrade their phone. So while it did add some halo and cachet to Apple by being sexy, it mostly drove consumers to buy the Pro and Pro Max models, which, by the way, is a good thing because those are higher price items for Apple.
Right. Now, so how important was it for Apple to unveil this discounted model? And how important is it that it comes out with all these different variations of the iPhone? Because as you said, the iPhone segment, any iPhone sales are good for them.
Yeah, so part of the introduction of iPhone Air was to push the price points of Pro up a little bit. By adding something between the iPhone and the Pro, they were able to then wedge up the Pro models. So that's helping them as well, because it turns out that this year is a big upgrade cycle. We thought the upgrade cycle would be last year with new AI functionality. Turns out that consumers aren't ready for the AI Apple has to offer. Apple isn't really offering very incremental AI to what you can get in the ChatGPT app. And so all we ended up with is, hey, phones are about 4 or 5 years old, so consumers are upgrading them. And as they're doing that, Apple was able to wedge in the Air model, again, give it a little bit of a sexy halo, but more importantly, push up the prices of Pro and Pro Max so consumers are actually buying a more expensive phone as they upgrade.
So now we've reported that the company is planning to delay the release of its new model for the iPhone Air, whenever that ends up being. What do you think the likelihood is that the company actually just ends up scrapping the model altogether?
Well, we won't find out until next year. And what's more likely to happen next year is a foldable iPhone. We've had foldable Samsung phones for a little while. They're quite popular. And so Apple just wanted to make sure to get it right. They want to make sure that it looks right, it folds right, it looks nice, it doesn't break. And it sounds like they'll be ready for that next year, which is upgrading the iPhone Air won't be a necessity. Maybe they'll do it for the year following that. And again, it'll be either including more cameras or maybe less functionality, so it's thin throughout. But we may not find out for another year or two what that looks like, because it looks like the emphasis for next year will be the foldable phone.
I am curious, the foldable phone, can you tell us about what you make of Apple's decision to move towards a foldable phone? As you said, other companies already have it. I don't see Apple as really someone who is going after their competition necessarily. They've always prided themselves on innovation. Why do you think the foldable phone is such a focus for them right now?
Because they see that Samsung has been successful.
Oh, so it is fully competition then in that case.
Yeah. And Apple is very innovative for sure. And their products are very compelling. And we're all very loyal to them. But realistically speaking, they haven't introduced a new product in a long time. They have been mostly seeing what the market is interested in and then doing it at their level, which is a level that delights consumers, and then coming up with that. Much to the frustration of Samsung Android users who feel like they are innovative and get things right first, and then Apple just copies them. Apple doesn't care, because if they get it right, they'll sell a lot more phones and generate a lot more profits.
If we just zoom out a little bit and look at Apple's efforts to innovate in the device ecosystem at large over the past few years, one thing I wanted to get your take on is whether this is a challenge of innovation and delivering a product that customers actually want. We've seen with stuff like the Vision Pro, I mean, it's hard to build things that customers want. Or is the other end of the challenge just that Apple is so big, it's really hard to make a dent in a company that is the size of Apple? Which one of those two strikes you as the bigger challenge right now?
Well, they're both challenges. But really, for them, it's much more important to get it right. So I would actually say that the Vision Pro, in its own way, was a big success. If you've been to an Apple store and did a trial with the Vision Pro, the experience is incredibly compelling. It's the world around you is vivid. You have a lot of control over it. It's a great glimpse into the future. So the price point has to come down. The headset has to get lighter. The battery pack can be external. These are all things that they will work out because, to your point, they need another big category. And we know what that's going to look like. It's going to be two elements to it. There's going to be the overhead goggles that will replace desktops and TVs and things like that. When we're stationary, we're going to have overhead goggles that immerse us in a world instead of viewing it through a 24-inch screen or a 27-inch screen or even a 90-inch TV. We'll get immersed in that. And then the other category is going to be the wearables, the glasses. And there we already know what that looks like because Meta's actually leading the way with the Meta Ray-Bans that are getting better and better at providing us the ability to enhance our world and as we are in motion. So when we're not sitting down at our desk or on our couch, those are the two new platforms that are important. Meta's racing to win in both of those categories. We can expect Google to participate in its way. Again, Apple gets it right. Apple delights consumers. And if you've tried the Vision Pro, it is a very engaging experience that we are going to have when it's ready for prime time.
Very quickly, before we let you go, you mentioned Google. We have the reporting that Apple is marching towards a deal with Google to use its AI in Siri. What do you think that tells you about Apple's AI strategy at large?
Actually, it's a good thing that they have the consumer so they can choose what model to feed the consumer and they don't have to make long-term commitments. They'll give the consumer what they can give them right now. They'll watch the models develop, they'll figure out who the winner is, and they'll supply that model to their consumers. So instead of spending hundreds of billions of dollars on data centers and training models, they're letting Google do it and OpenAI do it, and they're letting them race each other to see who gets access to the Apple consumer. And that's where we're at. We don't care whose model it is, as long as Siri can understand what we're talking about and be helpful.
Great. Well, Gil, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on. We really do appreciate it.